The room was dimly lit, filled with cigarette smoke, and smelled of cheap liquor. Words and numbers covered the walls, written with black Sharpie. Some I've traced at least 20 times, engraving them into the paint. That way, when they find me, they'll know I really meant them. Like I'm sorry, Angel. And my son's name, Owen Levi McMillan. Even though I know she didn't give him my last name, I took a long pull from my smoke with one hand and outlined the number 98 I had written yesterday. 98 days since she found out. 98 days since I broke her heart. 98 days in utter hell. The haunting melody of the Verve Pipes The Freshman seeped out of the speakers on the floor as I mentally relived every moment that brought me here. I snuffed out my cigarette, grabbed the bottle of wild turkey off the coffee table, and took a large chug. The burn didn't bug me like it once had. In fact, I craved it. Each fiery swallow meant I was one moment closer to leaving this cruel place. Last night I thought I had drank enough to end this torment. A half-gallon of cheap whiskey should have done the trick. Apparently not. Drinking myself to death was not the classiest way to go, but it seemed like the least messy. I'd never have the guts to blow my head off or slit my wrist. No, slowly poisoning myself was what I deserved, though lately it felt far too arduous. My eyes wandered to the wall, which had become my dark masterpiece, next to the new hole from last night's debauchery. I wrote the number 99 in big, bold letters. Lyrics filtered through my head, a final song perhaps. I wrote the words in big, bold letters beside the hole. I'm so sorry, but no forgiveness I find. Blood-stained tears I've cried, leaving me blind. No one can save me from the regret of my sin. My angel is gone. Now all I see is the end. There it was, folks. The worst lyrics I'd written in my entire worthless life. I threw down the Sharpie and punched the wall again and again. Each blow sent a shock of pain up my arm, but I welcomed it. I deserved this punishment for the pain I had caused others. All I did was hurt the people that I loved. A loud thud sounded from the door, pulling me from my black thoughts. There wasn't a soul in the world I wanted to see, except maybe. I tried to never think of her name. It was too unbearable. Go away! I stumbled around my uncle's bungalow, now demolished by my anger and self-loathing. He would kill me if he saw what I had done to the place. I chuckled sardonically. Maybe that could be my way out. Danny, open up. It's me, Shelby. Revulsion rippled through my body as an image of the angel girl we had both destroyed flashed through my mind. When we'd met, her wings were broken, but instead of being the safe place she needed to mend, I had ripped her wings right off, breaking her, destroying me. I said go away! The thudding on the door grew louder and more insistent. My knuckles throbbed on my right hand, blood trickling down my fingers and onto the already ruined carpet. One more thing for my uncle to be pissed about. I rushed to the bathroom, turned on the water, and stuck my hand under the cold water. In the cracked mirror, shattered in a fit of rage just a month ago, bloodshot eyes stared back at me in a shattered reflection. Eyes of a demon, in the shell of the man I once was. My hair hung down past my shoulders in unkempt tangles, and an unruly beard covered my face. Creed's My Own Prison began to play. Come on, Danny, open up. No way. I was in no mood to be lectured, especially not by Shelby. How could she even begin to live with the guilt of our actions? If I were her, I'd be drinking myself into oblivion day in and day out, like I'd been. I have the stuff you asked me for, Shelby said through the door. I quickly straightened up and wrapped a towel around my hand, heart pounding in my chest. Just give me a minute. What she didn't realize was that she held my salvation, my one-way ticket out of this personal hell that I had created for myself. If you don't open this door in 3 seconds, I'm leaving. Coming. I rushed across the room and opened the door a crack, careful to not let her see inside. She'd have me committed if she saw what I'd done to the place. Shelby stood there, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. Her blonde hair was pulled into a high ponytail, highlighting her sharp cheekbones and full lips. You going to invite me inside? Absolutely not. I inched through the door and closed it behind me. Actually, I could use some fresh air. She gave me a once-over, concern creeping into her piercing blue eyes. You look like you've been run over by a semi-truck. I shot her a sarcastic smile. Tell me something I don't know. Shelby's expression softened. It's been over 3 months, Danny. She reached out to place her hand on my chest, but I flinched away instinctively. Her touch used to ignite a fire within me, but now it only left a searing pain as it reminded me of our actions. I miss Tamara too, but you can't keep punishing yourself like this. Her name hit me like a crowbar to the groin, and my stomach turned with nausea. Didn't you say you brought me the stuff we talked about? Fidgeting nervously, she cleared her throat and fumbled through her purse. You have to promise me. If I give these to you, there'll be no more drinking. She pulled out a small bag filled with Ativan. I promise. After tonight, there would definitely be no more drinking or breathing. Lights out for good old Danny boy. Shelby placed the bag of pills into my open palm, then her arms wrapped around my shoulders in a desperate embrace. Her voice was soft and pleading as she whispered, Please don't do anything stupid. Reluctantly, I pulled her closer to me. Don't worry about me. I'll be all right. Drawing away from her, I turned towards the door and put my hand on the handle. I meant it, Danny. Her voice shook with emotion. Please, don't do anything stupid. I couldn't live with myself if you did. She was already living with worse, in my opinion. With a heavy sigh, I nodded. Okay, I said quietly, and then watched as she walked to her car and drove away. As soon as her car was out of view, I retreated into the house and sat down on the couch. With trembling hands, I pulled out the bag of pills and stared at them. A tangled web of thoughts and emotions filled me. I thought about Marissa and my son, and how much I screwed things up with them. Then Tamara. She had loved me so deeply, and I had crushed, decimated her heart. Tears tried to come, but I pushed them back. I looked down at the guitar Tamara had given me for my birthday. It was the one thing still in perfect shape in this trashed living area that used to be our home. Angel by Jamie Johnson sounded in my ears. Most people would think it didn't fit on the playlist, but this song tortured me the most. God. I cried, falling to my knees, finally letting the tears flow. I've always believed in you, but never followed you. I grabbed the bottle of whiskey off the table. Please forgive me for every awful thing I've ever done. I emptied the bag of pills in my hand. Please heal all that I hurt. And please watch over my son. Don't let him become like his father. With shaky hands, I popped the handful of pills in my mouth and washed them down with whiskey. Chapter 2. Danny, the Whitestone, 1800. A heavy, suffocating darkness seeped through my mind, numbing all sensation and muting the agony that had once consumed me. In its place there was only a faint echo of sadness, pulsing at the center of my being. It was a distant reminder of all I had done. My body felt as if it were weighed down by an impenetrable cloak of ebony, smothering me and trapping me in the moment forever. Danny! The sound of someone yelling my name echoed in the far-off reaches of my consciousness, but it didn't matter. I was beyond reach now. A loud banging accompanied the noise, but it was muffled and remote. Danny, open the door right now! Was that Charlie? There was a sudden crash and then the faint sound of footsteps across the floor. Danny, what did you do? Charlie's voice echoed, full of panic and fear. Oh God, help, please, help! Once again, silence fell over me, and I sank deeper into the abyss of blackness. Soon it would all be over. Please hurry, he's unresponsive. I think he may have overdosed on something. Charlie's words pierced through the darkness, bringing a surge of remorse with them. Even in death, I was hurting the people I cared about. Oh God, please forgive me. Stay with me, Danny, Charlie pleaded desperately, pushing against my lifeless body. Just let me go. It's too late for me. An image of my son flashed in front of my eyes. He was beautiful, with his mother's delicate features and my dark hair. In that moment I basked in the love I felt for him, a love that had been overshadowed by my guilt and regret since he was born. But now it flooded over me, as if God was giving me a final gift. There was at least one good thing I had done in my life, and it was him. A blinding light seared through my closed eyelids. His pupils are dilated, and his pulse is faint. Faint voices whispered in the background, pulling me away from the wonderful image. My eyes fluttered open, and 2 paramedics loomed over me, their faces twisted with worry. No, no, no. Oh God, please let me go back. I wanted to scream at them, but the words refused to come out. They lifted me onto the gurney and Charlie came to my side. What were you thinking? You're such an idiot. His words lashed out like knives, tearing into my already wounded soul. I hadn't meant to hurt him. I closed my eyes again, seeking solace in my comforting darkness that enveloped me. But instead of peace, I was assaulted by vivid memories, each one more painful than the last. The day I discovered my mother's affair, the moment she begged me not to tell my father, the burden of her secret that weighed down on me for years, isolating me from the rest of the world. Just as I thought I couldn't take any more, Charlie's voice cut through. Danny, you don't get to leave us like this. For a split moment I came to, only to be dragged back down under the weight of another suffocating memory. Marissa's accusing gaze pierced through the darkness, condemning me for all my wrongdoings. The fault lines in my soul shifted and cracked, and a deep crevasse opening up to swallow me whole. I was a drowning man in a sea of endless torment. How much longer would this torture last? But perhaps this was my punishment, an eternity of suffering for all the pain I caused in life. God, please let this stop. Save me from this torment. Save me from myself. Memories flashed before me like a broken film reel, each one carrying the weight of my sins. As I lay dying, I thought about how brutal life had been, but death was infinitely worse. The darkness grew thicker and more suffocating, until suddenly, as if mercy itself had kissed me, Tamara's face appeared before me, radiant and beautiful, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. A warm, golden honey seemed to seep into my very being as her delicate hand caressed my cheek. I'm so sorry, Angel, I whispered to her. Tears streamed down her face and fell onto mine. A brilliant light began to shine above her head, growing brighter until it enveloped her, and she disappeared, leaving behind a sense of peace that consumed me. Was this the end? Was I finally dead? My eyes opened to a breathtaking expanse. I found myself in a vast field, alive with bursts of colors, vibrant reds, purple, yellow, and blues. Wild flowers dotted the landscape, dancing in the gentle summer breeze. The wild flowers gave off a sweet and floral aroma, mixed with the clean scent of the summer breeze. As I breathed in the fresh air, it tasted sweet like honey, with a touch of earthiness. The sky above was a clear blue, and the sun shone warm and bright, casting a golden glow over everything. To my left was a vibrant blue lake, its water shimmering like crystals in the sunlight. The atmosphere was serene and otherworldly. Could this be heaven? I laughed at the thought, overwhelmed by the joy and ecstasy coursing through me. With my arms stretched wide, I turned several times, taking in my surroundings, reveling in the blissful feeling as the soft blades of grass tickled my bare feet. The gentle breeze brushed against my skin, leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. I could feel the sun's warmth on my face and the occasional cool mist from the lake. This was a place of endless possibility, a world where nature itself was an artist, painting a picture of serenity and magic unlike any other. Could this truly be heaven? It certainly felt like a place of pure bliss and infinite wonder. But then I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A small campfire next to the brilliant lake. Beside it sat a man in a wooden chair, sipping from a coffee mug. Had he been there all along? I froze in the midst of my turn, arrested by the sight of this stranger, who was both familiar and foreign at the same time. His presence exuded a powerful force that tugged at me, pulling me closer to him. It was as if he possessed a magnetism greater than the endless ocean at dawn, and a charm more captivating than the most beautiful melody I had ever heard. My heart swelled with love and joy and serenity all at once, unable to put into words the depth of emotion he evoked within me. Step by step I approached him, drawn like a moth to a flame. As if on cue, another chair materialized beside him. "Hello, Danny." His voice was warm and welcoming as he turned to face me with a smile. Golden flecks danced in his deep brown eyes, penetrating mine, with an intimate gaze that made it feel like he could see straight into my soul. Yet there was only kindness and understanding in his expression, as if he knew every secret and pain within me but held no judgment. The love emanating from this man, whoever, whatever he may be, was beyond comprehension. It overwhelmed me in the best possible way. 1,000 questions poured through my mind at once. Where was I? Was this God? If so, would he judge me for the wrongs I'd done? Trepidation clawed at my chest. Perhaps that was why I was here, to see what could have been if my life had taken a different path. Any moment now, the ground beneath me would open up and swallow me whole into the depths of hell. "Who are you?" My voice shook with fear. "Why am I here? How do you know my name?" "Please, have a seat." His words were laced with peace as he gestured toward a nearby chair. "We have much to catch up on." As I sat next to him, my gaze wandered out towards the crystal blue water. It was so clear, it resembled glass. Turning back to the man beside me, I took in his features. At first glance, he seemed fairly ordinary, but upon closer inspection, his eyes were striking and seemed to peer right into the depths of my soul. "Are you God?" The question escaped my lips before I could stop it. He smiled and nodded in response. "I am." Though spoken softly, his words reverberated through every cell of my being. Trembling tears began to fall down my cheeks. Should I fall at his feet and beg for forgiveness for all the sins I had committed? For taking my own life? "There is no need for groveling," he said gently. "You have already asked for forgiveness, and that is what you have received. You are completely forgiven." In that moment, all my anxiety and fear melted away in the presence of this divine being. My heart swelled with love and acceptance, a feeling so overwhelming that words could not do it justice. Could this really be true? Could I stay here forever in this paradise, surrounded by such unconditional love? Wait a second. I hadn't said my fears out loud. We don't need words here. This was incredible. He had responded to my very thoughts. "This is crazy," I blurted out, quickly correcting myself. "I mean, wow. This place is even better than I could have ever imagined. I'm sorry, but on Earth, they always made heaven sound so boring." I cringed at my own words, rambling on to God about how dull I assumed he would be. But to my surprise, he seemed amused. "Danny, we need to talk." His soft voice broke through my thoughts. A chill ran through me as if icicles had formed in my stomach. How could I feel fear in the midst of such splendor? "You are going to have to go back soon, and there are things I need to tell you." His usually warm brown eyes grew serious. My heart dropped as his words sank in. "Go back? But why?" I pleaded. "It's not your time yet, son." I felt my knees weaken and I threw myself at his feet, tears streaming down my face. "Please don't make me go back. You don't understand. After everything I've done, I can't live with myself." His gentle hand rested on my shoulder as he looked down at me with understanding and compassion. "I assure you, I understand more than you will ever know. But trust me when I say that you must go back." Tears streamed down my face as I took in his words. I'd never experienced love like this. I didn't want to leave this place of warmth and safety. "Please," I begged, "let me stay here with you." His solemn gaze rested on me, full of understanding. "Your son needs you, Danny." "My son? How could that possibly be? He doesn't even know me. I'm not allowed in his life." "I know, but if you trust me, I can change that." "Do you even know what I've done?" I yelled, pain coming out in my words like shattered glass. "I've ruined my whole life." His hand reached for my chest, fingers settling over my heart. My eyes were drawn to the small circular scar on his wrist. "I came to make all things new." Fire blazed in his eyes and liquid love poured into me, and healing wounds I thought were irreparable. The events of my life flashed before me once again, but now with a different perspective. My mother's infidelity was born from a shattered heart that sought comfort. Tamara left so she could find healing for herself, and even Marissa's lies had been to protect herself from me. In the presence of this man, it was easy to forgive them for their actions. But what about myself? "Danny," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "I am able to redeem every mistake you have ever made." He pulled out a pure white stone from his pocket. Its surface gleamed with an otherworldly radiance and seemed to pulse with a powerful energy. "There are many names that the father of lies has spoken to you, but on this stone is written your true name." My true name? My heart blazed as if the sun was inside my chest as I gazed at the stone. It was unlike any other stone I had ever seen. Its smooth surface etched with intricate letters from a language I didn't recognize but somehow felt connected to. "What does it say?" "You need to return to fully understand. Every name is given through relationship, and so yours will be." My son appeared beside me, put his tiny hand around my hand, and tugged on it. I stood and followed him to the water's edge. The lake stretched out before us in all its breathtaking glory, the vibrant blue waters contrasting against the lush greenery that surrounded it. He glances up at me, his piercing blue eyes questioning. Longing grew inside of me as I took in his features. Something in his expression told me that something was deeply missing from his life. Was that something me? I handed him the stone and he eagerly took it in his small hands, marveling at its beauty. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed it out into the lake. It landed with a soft splash, causing ripples to dance across the water's surface 1,000 times over. "He needs you, Danny." The man spoke again, his words echoing in my mind. "He needs a father." Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized how much this being, God, wanted to heal and restore my broken life. And standing there with my son by my side, I could feel his loving presence surrounding us both. "I will do whatever it takes," I whispered, knowing that my journey to understanding and redemption was just beginning. Assurance washed over me. If I was to go back, if I was to face this impossible journey, I would have to put my whole trust in him.